Hi, welcome. So in this video, we're going to learn to use Packet Tracer. So I've started Cisco Packet Tracer, which is a network emulating tool developed by Cisco Systems. And a shout out to my friend Dennis Frezzo at Cisco that actually developed this along with his team. Okay, so don't feel overwhelmed with everything that all the different options and that you'll become more and more familiar with it as you use it. But I guess the best way to learn about this is just to get started. So right now I've got the pointer tool. That's right here. And I'm in logical mode. That's where we're going to stay, is in logical mode. I have another video that talks about physical mode. Excuse me. So down here we have some of the devices that we can use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this little arrow right here so we can see all the devices. Okay, in the top here, we select things like network devices, end devices. We have components, cables. And notice when I select these different top options, I have other options down below that I can select from. Let's begin here. I'm going to go right here to end devices. Then leave this one here alone, the first group here, and I'm going to select a PC. So I'm going to move a PC right here. And I'm going to do another PC. Now I can either just drag and drop, or I can click on it and click again. Now those look kind of small, don't they? Let's do something about that. I'm going to click right up here on zoom, and that's a little better. And I can see I can move these around. All right. Next, what I'm going to do is connect these two PCs to something called an Ethernet switch. Don't worry about all the terms we're going to be using in this video, in this lab, all the things we're going to be configuring. You're going to learn all about this, about all of this stuff later. Okay. This is just to get you familiar with using the tool. All right, I have my two PCs. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to click on this top one, top left, network devices. Then go down to the bottom row, click on switches, and I'm going to just drag and drop this 2960 switch right there. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is connect these PCs to the switch. So I'm going to go right here to this lightning bolt symbol. And then this one here, this cable here, notice when I wand over these, the name changes down here, down to the bottom. See, it says copper straight through. That's what I want. Okay, we'll learn more about this later. I'm going to click on that, and notice I get this little connector symbol. That's an RJ45 connector. And I wand over it something, I can see some information. Don't worry about that right now. But I'm going to click on PC0, and I'm going to choose fast Ethernet. That's the only one that will work for. And now I get this cable. Where am I going to connect it to? The switch. I'm going to click on the switch. When I wand over it, some stuff might come on. Don't worry about that. Click on the switch. In this case, I'm going to choose one of these fast, actually any of these Ethernet ports is fine. Okay, but I'm going to choose fast Ethernet 03. Fast Ethernet means it's 100 megabits per second. Okay, and you can actually choose any of them, but if you want to kind of go along with what I'm doing here, then this will help. Just use the same port numbers. Now notice it says FA0, FA, that means fast Ethernet 03. These are being shown. Why? Let's come up here. Let me show you something. Cisco Packet Tracer preferences. The reason I'm seeing those is right here. We have right under interface, I have a lot of options. If you want to see these labels, meaning what's connected to what, you can click on always show port labels in logical workspace. Notice when I click this off, okay, make sure I didn't have to save, it went away. If I click it on, it's back. Okay. So for now, let's leave it on. Maybe that will help us a little bit. Okay. All right. I'm also going to do the same thing here for PC1. I'm going to lightning bolt symbol, copper straight through, fast Ethernet port. And I'm going to choose now. Notice when on the switch here, fast Ethernet 03 is no longer available. So I'll choose fast Ethernet 4. Okay. Let's do a couple more of these. I'm going to go actually down here. We're going to do another similar setup. Oh, notice the lights. Notice this one's amber. This one's green. They start off as amber, but then in about 50 seconds, it will go green. Why? We'll learn about this later. It's using a protocol called spanning tree. We'll learn about that later. We'll get there. Okay. A lot of cool stuff to come. All right. I'm going to come down here to networking devices again. I'm actually going to, let's do the switch here, add another 2960 switch. I'm going to put that right here. And I'm going to add another 2 PCs. So let's go down here to end devices. Okay, that's great. I'm right here, see my PC. I can drag and drop, or I can just click like this. All right, and I'm going to connect those to this switch. Connector symbol, copper straight through, fast Ethernet. Again, one of the fast Ethernet ports. It could be gigabit. That's 1 billion bits per second, but let's stick with these. I'll do fast Ethernet 3 again on that one, and I'll make this one fast Ethernet 4, just to be a little bit consistent, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, move that a little bit so we can see it, stretch these out. By the way, I can move entire groups if I wanted to. Select that, move that over if I wanted to. Okay. Same thing here, move it over if I wanted to. All right, now let's connect the 2 switches. The way we connect 2 Ethernet switches is using this cable right here. Again, I'm over here at connections. Okay, I'm going to use what's known as a copper crossover cable. And I'm going to go from fast Ethernet 1, and it doesn't have to be the same over here, but I'll make it the same. Fast Ethernet 1. Okay, notice those lights are amber. They'll go green just like the rest of these in about 50 seconds. All right, we're getting there, but let's test our configuration. Well, we first got to do some configuration. Right now, these devices are physically connected, but they're not logically connected. They're not in the same IP network. We'll get there later, but let's talk more about what that means later, but let's configure these devices. I'm going to go over here to PC 0. Okay, and what I'm going to do is click on and show me the physical tab. By the way, I can zoom in. See, that's actually a working power button, but let's leave it on. I'm going to go over here to the config tab, and that may look like a little hard to see. I'm going to come down here to fast Ethernet. Is that a little hard for you to see? No problem. Let's do this. Let's go back up to preferences. And I'm going to go over here to font. And this is where I can change my font sizes and things, my application size. So I'm going to change the application size, which is going to change a lot of things. So I might have to move some things around. Let's make it about 18. And then down here, I got to click apply. Okay. Going to close that. Notice that things got a little bigger, right? So maybe move things around a little bit so we can see them a little bit better. Okay. Let's go back up here to PC 0. Okay. Can we click on that? Now this is a little easier to see for you. Excuse me. I'm going to go here to interface fast Ethernet. Click on this. Okay, notice when I click on this, I get IP configuration static. I'm going to configure static IPv4 addressing information. Don't worry about what this is right now. We'll talk more about it a little later, but I'm going to type in 10. And this is where we have to be careful not to make a mistake. 10.1.50. Okay. And the subnet mask, it defaults to this mask, but I'm going to change it. That's 255.255.255.0. Okay. As we will see in a moment, all of our devices will have this same subnet mask. We'll talk more about what that is later. They'll also have the first 3 numbers in common of the address. Only this last number will be unique. One more thing I want to do on each one, and we'll do it on each one of these, is I'm going to go over here where it says Global Settings. And I'm going to add the default gateway. This will be our router's address. We're going to add a router here in a moment. 10.10.1.1. And that's going to be the same on all of our devices. Okay, so I'm going to close this. And by the way, when I wand over this device now, you'll actually see that information. See the IP address? Do that again. The gateway, the /24 is the 255.255.255.0. We'll talk more about that later. Let's do these other ones. PC1. Rick has to be careful here not to make a mistake. Fast Ethernet. I'm at the config tab, Fast Ethernet. 10.10.1.55. Okay. Same three numbers, last number is different. Okay, I got to change that subnet mask. There we go. Go up here to settings. 10.10.1.1 with dots in between. Okay, same on all of them for this. Okay, close that. Let's go here, PC2. I'm going to make this one here. Fast Ethernet, we can give this different address, 10.10.1.100. Notice they all begin with 10.10.1. Same subnet mask on all of them. Learn about this later. Not important yet. Okay. And then go to settings. Same default gateway, our router's address that we'll be adding here shortly. Okay, great. And PC3, almost there. Config tab, Fast Ethernet, 10.10.1. I think I have that at, made that 101. Again, same to 10.10.10.10. Whoops. See, I went to show you something and I clicked, it says invalid subnet mask. Thank you for telling me though that. I was trying to show you this. That's going to be the same. This will be different. Now let's put in a valid mask. Just like your operating system on your computer will tell you when it's an invalid mask or any of this information that is perhaps invalid. More about that later. 10.10.1.1. All right, we have all of our addresses. Matter of fact, if I wand over any of these, I should be able to see the information. You know, it might help Rick, because, you know, Rick can't remember these things very well. I'm going to go over here to this note. See right here, I'm clicking right here, notes. I can actually make a note. I get this little text symbol here, text bar, and I can add some notes. I'm going to put in what the address is so I don't forget. And I'm going to hit the enter key. And then I'll hit the pointer symbol. So I get off the notes and notes. I can move this around, but I'm going to put that right there. So I remember the IP address of PC0. Okay, that's kind of cool. Let's do another one. Put this one right here. This was 10.10.1.55, right? 255.255.255. This will all make more sense later. Okay. If I can also do this. See how I grab this? I can actually, I'm going to do I'm on a Mac, Command C, copy, and then Command V to paste. See, I just created a new one, but I got to make sure I get the information correct. This was what? 10.10.1.100, right? All right, so let's change that. I just clicked on the box inside the box, 100. There we go. All right, and I can do that again. I'm going to paste again. Okay, make it a little easier for Rick. All right, so looking good so far. All right, I think we have everything. We got green link lights. That's always good. Green link lights are good. We have our computers, our host computers and devices connected to Ethernet switches. Looks like we got the proper cabling. These are straight through cables. here and a crossover cable here. Let's do a little testing. Click on PC1, and this time I'm going to go over to the desktop tab and command prompt. Wow, now we're at what's known as a command prompt, just like Windows command prompt, similar for Linux and Mac OS as well, which uses Unix. I'm going to do ipconfig. Command we'll talk more about, but I can see there's my IP address, subnet mask, and my router's address. I'm going to see if I can communicate with any of these other devices. I should be able to communicate with all three other PCs. I'm going to use a command called ping. Ping space. Ping is the command, and then the IP address of the device I want to test my communications with. We'll learn more about this tool later, but it's 10. Let's go to this one here, 10.10.1.50. Okay, I'm 55. I'm going to do 10.10.1.50. Hit enter. And I'm getting replies. Windows, this is kind of a Windows emulator, sends 4 pings and looks for 4 replies. Now, if the first one fails, request timeout, or the second one, first and second one fail, you get this request timeout, but the later ones succeed, that's normal. We'll talk more about why that happens later. Okay, but what this means is that these two devices cannot communicate with each other. Hey, let's try this down here, PC2 and PC3. Okay. Well, let's go here to desktop, command prompt. Again, I'll do let's verify my IP addressing information. That all looks good. Okay, so let's do a ping to 10, whoops, how do you spell 10? There we go, 10.10.1.101. That's PC3's IP address. Can PC2 communicate with PC1? Do we have communications over these Ethernet switches? And we'll learn about what all this is later and how it works. We'll get there. A lot of good stuff to come. Let's take a look. 10 ping.10.10.1.55. Yes, so PC2 and PC1, these two PCs with these two IP addresses can communicate with each other. All right, looking good. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to add another switch. Okay, and so I'm going to go right here to network devices, switches, and I'm going to add this switch right here, another 2960. Now, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to put it right there. Move this up a little bit. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect both of these switches to this switch. Okay, and let's see what happens. Okay, I'm going to go over here, this cable here. I'm going to, all right, the connections. Again, copper crossover. I'm going to choose Fast Ethernet 1 to yeah, that should be fine. Fast Ethernet 2 here. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is let me turn off the port labels. There we go. So we can see the link. See, it makes it a little cleaner, doesn't it? Now, you notice those are amber right now. They're going to go green here in a moment. Now, we're going to connect something else to that switch too in a moment. And we'll learn more about this later, okay? A lot. Okay, so we've got green link lights, but I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to connect these two Ethernet switches. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of a loop here, aren't we? So let me go Fast Ethernet 2 to Fast Ethernet 2. Again, doesn't have to be the same. Okay, but they should both be Fast Ethernet. Okay, now what you're going to see here, I'm going to make this like, yeah, there we go. Okay, now I said that we're waiting for them to go green. Okay, what we're going to see here in a moment is only one of these ports in this loop of Ethernet switches will stay amber. We'll learn more about this later. what is happening here is we have what's known as an Ethernet loop. In Ethernet loops are not good. Okay, so a protocol called spanning tree is blocking one of the ports. So this port here is in essence is not being used. Okay, so any communications to switch from down here to something connected to switch 2 would have to go through switch 0. Okay, we'll learn more about why spanning tree does this, why the spanning tree is an important protocol, and why we can't have loops in Ethernet switches and Ethernet LANs a little later. So don't worry about that right now. Okay, but there's one more thing I want to add. Our router, our default gateway. So let's do that. I'm going to come down here, network devices, and leave it here on routers. And I'm actually going to choose this router right here, that 2911. That's the one we want. Because each one of these are different model Cisco routers, and they have different port setups and things, but the configuration is all the same. Okay, and you'll learn about the configuration of routers and switches later. We'll get there. Okay, but for right now, I want to connect this router to our switch. So let's do that. I'm going to go down here to our connections. Okay, and again, I'm going to choose a copper straight through cable. And actually now notice what I'm going to select on the router is, oh, it has gigabit ports. Okay, these are 1 billion bits per second. I'm going to choose gigabit 00. And I'm actually, although I could connect it to a fast Ethernet port, let's also make it the same, gigabit. We'll learn more about what happens when the ports are different bandwidth, different speeds. Learn about that later. But for now, let's make that gigabit 1. Now notice that these are red. That's because this port is turned off, disabled, shut down. Let's configure the router. We'll learn a lot more about this later. I'm going to move it right here for now, so we can see the configuration as we do it. I click on router. Okay, move that over a little bit so we can. There we go. All right. Let's zoom in. This is our router. Okay, there's kind of hard to see, but where's our gigabit 00 port? I think it's right there. That's the port that we're configured to. Okay, and it is on. There's the on-off button. I've got one of these routers sitting right here in my office, matter of fact. All right, what we're going to do is go to the config tab. Okay, and what I'm going to do is connected it to, watch what happens when I wand over the links. Do I have that connected, set up? No. Let me show you this. Preferences. If I want to, let's see, show port labels when mouse over in logical workspace. If I have that selected, watch what happens. Now watch what happens when I wand over this link. See, it shows me the links. Gig 00, kind of hard to see. If I move this down, maybe a little easier. There we go. So I know which ports are being connected. Gig 00 here, right? Okay. Let's go back here. I'm on config tab, gigabit Ethernet 00. I'm going to give it that IP address. Remember, this is the default gateway. So let's give it that address that all the other devices will use for their way out of this network. And we'll learn about this stuff later, but let's configure the address 10.10.1.1. That's that address all these other devices are using as their default gateway. And let's configure the subnet mask. Same subnet mask. Notice this part of the address is the same as everybody else. It has a unique address, .1. Now you'll also notice when I added these down here, it says equivalent iOS commands. We'll be learning about this in a later lab. You'll be configuring all of this using Cisco iOS operating system commands. iOS, not iOS like Apple iOS, but Cisco iOS, capital I, not little I. Okay, we're almost there. I need to do this as well. I need to go right here and enable this port. That's what we call do a node shutdown. Notice the light came on as soon as the green light came on. This turned green, and this will go amber, and it will go green in a moment. One last thing we need to do. Let's do this. Let's go up here to settings. And I need here to save. Let's remember how to save everything. So when I'm configuring routers, and later we'll be configuring switches, and we'll be doing this from the command line interface. You want to go, you'll be saving what's known as the running config to the startup config. For right now, we just go to config, where it says NVRAM, just click save. Okay. Okay. I'm going to move this over. Excuse me. Now we have our complete first network. Now, I better save this. Should keep on saving, by the way. File, save as. So save as you go on here. Okay. So Packet Tracer will automatically save things to a certain place, but you can save it elsewhere if you wish. Okay, I'm just going to put Rick's first lab, and it will save it as a .pkt extension file. There we go. All right. And anytime I make changes that I'm happy with, I should just right up here, click save. Okay. Now this was our router. Matter of fact, I'm going to add a note here for our router. Let's do it right here. Remember, it is the 10.10.1.1. Same. Notice they all have that same subnet mask, 255.255.255.0. By the way, this is the equivalent. I'll just put it right there. It's a /24. We'll learn more about that later. Let me click on that tool there. Well, that's when you wand over these and you see /24. See that /24? Kind of going away real quick. There it is. All right. So all these devices should be able to reach each other. Matter of fact, let's go to PC1 here. Okay. Let's do IP config once again down at the bottom there. Okay, so you can see this. Let me do it like this. So you can see what number. There we go. Okay, I did an IP config. There's my IP address, subnet mask. There's my default gateway. Let me move this here, like right there. You can see that a little bit better. Okay, that's the address of my router. Okay, we'll learn how this is used later when these devices are sending IP packets. Don't worry about what that is right now, to devices on other networks. Okay, so can I reach that router? That's really what I'm concerned with, or what I want to verify. IP config again. Okay, let's ping 10.10.1.1. I'm pinging this default gateway, this router's address. Yes. So I can not only communicate with all the other computers in my network, I can also communicate with my router, my default gateway. Okay. Now, just a few last notes here before I end this lab. Make sure you're saving as you're going. If something is not working, okay, check your configurations. Okay, let's go here. Fast Ethernet. Is this information correct? Okay. Do I have, it's very easy. You may even need help having a friend to say, check this for me, because I'm not seeing. Many times I've done this. I've sometimes made this, like maybe I made that a 1 and I don't see it. No, it's got to be a 10. Okay. All right. So make sure that's correct. Make sure your cabling's correct. All right. And if you've done this, then you're good to go. Okay. Have fun with this. You're not going to break anything. This is a great tool, and we're going to be using it a lot in this class and in my other classes. Okay, we're going to be doing some incredible things with Packet Tracer. It's a wonderful tool. Okay, so Enjoy it. You're not going to break anything. Remember to save your work. All right. And I'll see you in the next lab.